Hello everyone, we are back and live once again here on Sportsmen Media. It's been a while, we'll get into where we've been, where we're at. Lots to talk about here coming up. Sportsmen Media, let's get it.
And you're listening to The Sportsmen, Mike and Rob.
All right, so it's been a hot minute. Things have gotten super busy for us here on Sportsman Media, so we do apologize for our leave of absence, but we are back here to start the new year. Hopefully everything is coming through clear, audio is clear. Just let me know. Hold on. Is that duplicated? I think it's all right. Looks like the audio wasn't coming through at all. Hopefully, it's coming through now. I'm not sure if it's crisp and clear. Hopefully, it's coming through now. Well, there we go. So now it is coming through. So with that though, let me start on over. Welcome everyone. We are live. Sportsman Media here. We do apologize for our absence. It's been a very crazy, busy end of the year for me and for my co-host Rob, which is not able to make it with us today, but hopefully he'll be back in the saddle with us here soon, as he's got a crazy busy schedule as well. But we're here to let's talk about all this craziness in the MLB offseason going on. Carlos Correa and is what we're going to start off here. Probably the hottest topic in baseball right now. What's going on with him? The Mets. Where's he going to sign next? Is it going to be the Mets? Is there another team looming in the wind? Potentially a reunion with the Twins is still in play, apparently. Potential other suitors, it could potentially be the Astros. Question here, why? The question I guess we want to ask ourselves is, what could be so concerning about an injury he had before he was an actual MLB player? This extends back, I guess, when he was still a prospect. He hurt his ankle. Apparently now that's causing major concerns. He was apparently a Giant for almost a week. It was announced he was going to be signing with the Giants. This is where this craziness happened. He was in the press conference room with a Giants jersey on, waiting to be announced. The Giants were unsure because of his physical, and the Mets seemed to just swoop in the middle of the night, steal him from the Giants, probably crushing Giants fans for the second time after they had just thought they had Aaron Judge, and then they lost him as well. We'll get into that a little bit later. But now he's with the Mets. Mets swooped him in. Mets like, oh yeah, okay, we got him. We're going to sign him. He's, quote unquote, officially a Met. And now the same concerns that the Giants were having, the Mets now are uneasy, and they're trying to create some kind of historic contract to that probably have never been seen before in MLB. I'm assuming to get some kind of guarantees in there if he's to get hurt by this injury that they don't have to pay him X amount of dollars. As we know, all baseball contracts are pretty much guaranteed money. If you get hurt, you still get paid. Sounds like the Mets are trying to get around that somehow. But will he actually end up signing with the Mets? I have my doubts. The Mets now are reporting that they are getting very frustrated and have their doubts of a contract being made, even though they're expressing, real positive stuff, saying we're for sure think we can get a deal done. However, may not be the case now. Could also just be a tactic they're using. Could be a tactic that Correa's camp is using. There hasn't been specific concrete stuff on which other teams are in contact with him. There's been some rumors, but maybe he's just using that as a ploy to get them to hey, I got other teams interested in me. You better sign me before I sign somewhere else. But if he does go somewhere else, I think that seriously affects his worth. I don't think he gets anywhere close to the contract that the Mets and the Giants have both offered. I wouldn't be surprised if even he just ends up with, a 1-year deal again, betting on himself, maybe betting on the injury, signing a 1-year, maybe a 3-year deal somewhere. But I don't think he's going to get anywhere close to the kind of deal he's been trying to get if he goes to another team, because once he loses 2 negotiations here with 2 teams, that I think that's just going to drastically drop his value. And I think he'll want to sign something shorter just so he can hopefully get something larger next year, maybe. So, but yeah, Astros, Twins. Is he going to reunite with the Astros? I don't see that one as likely as the Twins. I think there's a good chance he goes back home to the Twins. I think the only reason he really even opted out of the contract was just he wants a bigger contract. That's why he opted out from his Minnesota Twins contract. So I think there's a good chance he goes back there and the Twins offer him a good sized deal. I think the Twins might even offer him somewhere up to maybe a 7-year deal, maybe not the same 10 or 12-year deal he was looking for, but and to be honest, to start this thing, I was always saying that I was 100% against the Angels signing him just because he was from the Astros, the whole trash show scandal, and just it wouldn't look good for the Angels signing him. But with all this stuff going on and the country the Angels are already in, what's adding a little bit more controversy? If they could sign him for a 1-year deal to help fix a hole in the lineup, I don't think I'd hate it. I don't think I'd hate it if it was just a 1-year deal. Even if it was a high value 1 year, because we're not stuck in that contract, and then that still gives us that room to sign Ohtani to that mega deal next year. I wouldn't hate it, just because it's going to show the Angels are doing everything they can to get back into the playoffs, which I think it's a make or break year for the Angels. They got to get to the playoffs, or I think they lose Shohei Ohtani. But we'll get into that later in the show as well. But Carlos Correa, my predictions is I don't think he ends up with the Mets, but I guess we're going to see what happens. I don't think he's going to sign that long-term deal, but I guess we're going to find out exactly how healthy he is. So other craziness, though, let's go on, cover some of the top free agent signings and moves this offseason here by all the MLB teams. Lots of craziness happening, starting with, of course, the biggest talk before this Carlos Correa madness was, of course, Aaron Judge, the AL MVP, the AL home run leader last year. Lots of controversy. He was apparently a giant for a day or so before eventually ended up signing back with New York for 9 years, $360 million deal. Average of about $40 million a year for Mr. Aaron Judge. Insane contract for him. And it's a good move for the Yankees. I think the Yankees definitely needed to make sure they did not lose Aaron Judge. That's their MVP. They needed to make sure they had him locked up. They made him the new captain of the team. I think he's the first captain since Derek Jeter, if I'm not mistaken. So of course, Aaron Judge, obviously the biggest signing. Carlos Correa, now the second biggest thing going on here, trying to sign the $12 million deal, 12-year, $315 million deal with the Mets. Still in limbo. And then we got Trey Turner going to the Phillies. That was a big one. Big pickup for the Phillies there. Phillies are looking pretty good. They got themselves up there in the power rankings already for the start of 2023. Adding Trey Turner, and of course, I think they added Craig Kimbrell and a couple of other little pieces here to their already potent lineup. Xander Bogaerts, that was the surprise one going to San Diego. San Diego on an 11-year, $280 million deal. That's a good solid pickup for San Diego. San Diego looking to turn the tides here and give the Dodgers in the West hopefully a run for the money and make the playoffs and make a deep run for once in the playoffs for the Padres. And then I think one of the biggest shockers, though, for me, Jacob deGrom leaving the Mets to go to Texas on a 5-year, $185 million deal, $37 million a year average salary. So deGrom cashing in there, getting the bag. My question on this one, though, this is what the question is: if the Mets, as much money as the Mets have shown that they're willing to spend, I mean, their payroll is astronomical this year. Between their signings of Verlander, Scherzer, they signed that Japanese guy. They got their starting pitching is a solid 6 now, I think. But the Mets were willing to let deGrom go. Was there bad blood there? Is there something that injury-wise maybe is deGrom really healthy? Maybe there's something the Mets were concerned about injury, giving him that length of money and that much money. You know, will we see any looms of that for Texas? Huge signing for Texas. Texas is really trying to make a push. I mean, they signed Bellinger last year, and they signed I can't remember the other guy they signed off the top of my head, but they've been going. The Rangers are making a play. They're making a play, saying that, you know, we're here to contend. We want to contend. It's only getting harder in the AL West. The AL West is becoming a very stacked division right now. Between the Astros, the Mariners, and now the Rangers. Hopefully the Angels, they made some pretty good signings so far as well. I think the Angels are definitely one of the teams winning this offseason. I think they're one of the most improved this offseason so far. But it's not going to be easy for them to compete. It's a 4-deep, solid division now. If the A's get back on track, I mean, the A's just reset their entire team. They sold off the farm. They sold the farm, so the A's probably going to be last in the division this year. But I mean, you never can count them out either. So really, you got a 5-deep team AL West. You know, Astros obviously are still the crown. See if they'll get dethroned this year. I have a feeling that they will. And if it's not by the Angels, it's probably going to be by the Mariners. I think the Mariners are going to have a breakout year. They had a breakout year last year. They did really well. But I think the Mariners will definitely be in the running for the division come September. Then we got the surprising Atlanta losing their shortstop, Danby Swanson. He's going over to Chicago. Atlanta not doing too much so far this offseason. They've added a little bit of little solid pieces here and there, but they really have not done much other than lose some key pieces. But Dansby Swanson going to the Cubs, a good pickup for the Cubs there. I think the Cubs were one of the teams actually originally rumored to get Carlos Correa, potentially, as well, and they would have a mixture of like him and Swanson at short and second. Not so much the case anymore. We got Carlos Rodon, one of the top starting pitchers as well. Hoping the Angels would sign him, but he went to the Yankees. Yankees, another good pickup for them. Another loss for the Giants to the Yankees. We got Brandon Nimmo staying with the Mets. They signed him to an extension, 8-year, $162 million deal. Edwin Diaz, relief, also staying with the Mets. They signed him to another extension, 5 years, $102 million. Wilson Contreras going to St. Louis. So Willie stepping in the shoes of Yadier Molina. Big shoes to fill there in St. Louis, but Wilson Contreras definitely one of the best catchers in the league, if not the best catcher in the league currently. It's going to be a solid acquisition for them. He got a 5-year, $87.5 million deal. And we got Justin Verlander with the crazy $86.6 million deal to leave Houston to go to the Mets on a 2-year deal. This guy is going to be 40 years old this year. And making $43 million a year. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are, but a pitcher getting paid this much money, the precedence was set with Scherzer. Look at what happened with Scherzer last year. You're paying a pitcher when he's healthy that's going to play maybe a max of like 30 games a year for you, right? 30 games a year. You're paying him more than any other position player that contributes on the ball. 100 can help you win 162 times out of the year to a guy that can only help you win 30. I don't see the value in it. I don't know why pitchers are getting paid this much money when their pitchers are hurt left and right now. It just does not seem a good investment to me in baseball. I think some of this is destroying some of the financial stuff for some of the smaller market teams. But at the same time, I know the way the salary things work and revenue gets shared with other teams, it's actually helping some of the smaller teams. But it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, look at what happened. Sure, they signed Scherzer for that 40+ million a year. He missed like half the season, and yet they still had to pay him. The Mets, they did make the playoffs, so the Mets were actually doing great without DeGrom and Scherzer. It just shows you how deep the Mets were. But so if they were healthy the whole time, the Mets could have had one of the best records in baseball ever, potentially. But this just goes to go, like, I would never, I can't see signing a pitcher worth that much money. You can get, you can get 3 solid pitchers for that money to contribute to your team over one guy. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Hopefully Verlander stays healthy. I mean, he's another guy. He's been obviously an all-star pitcher and a Hall of Fame pitcher when he retires. He did have Tommy John surgery, but he's been back, 2 years now since Tommy John, or a little over a year since Tommy John. One of the best pitchers in the league. Hopefully he stays healthy. I don't wish anyone to get injured, but we'll see if this turns into Max Scherzer 2.0 for the Mets or not this year. I think it's a huge deal for them to both stay healthy, for the Mets to really go all the way. But exciting time to be a Mets. I mean, they're buying everyone up. And then we got Andrew Benintendi. He's going to Chicago White Sox, leaving New York, 5-year, $75 million deal. Taijuan Walker leaving the Mets, going to the Phillies, but they've already Mets have replaced him tenfold. Got Jameson Talon. He's going from New York to Chicago on a 4-year, $68 million deal. And those, wrapping up the top free agent signings so far. We got some other key mentions, though. Anthony Rizzo, of course, he's staying with the Yankees. He was apparently a key part in the Yankees keeping Aaron Judge around. I mean, from what I've heard, it was pretty close that he was going to sign somewhere else. He wanted. I know he did want to stay with the Yankees, but they had to get to that certain point in the deal. Nathan Eovaldi going to Texas as well. Another solid pickup for Texas. Tyler Anderson, probably one of the sneakier signings the Angels made. Angels really first ones to make a splash in the offseason signing this year. Signing some key pieces like Tyler Anderson had an excellent year for the Dodgers. Got him on a 3-year, $39 million deal, $13 million a year. I think really good for that price. He's only going to be 33 this year. Solid lefty from the Dodgers. If he can replicate even close to what he did for the next 3 years, what he did last year, I think it's going to be an absolute steal of a signing for the Angels. Again, I think that all just depends on Angels staying healthy. Kenley Jansen leaving the Braves, going to Boston as well. And Justin Turner leaving the Dodgers, going to Boston, switching with JD Martinez from Boston, going to the Dodgers, basically just switching their DH hitters. Going to be interesting to see how that works. Clayton Kershaw, of course, re-signing with the Dodgers. Not a shocker there. I'm kind of surprised it took as long as it did, though, to announce they were re-signing him. The other thing, Cody Bellinger leaving the Dodgers, going to Chicago. That was another big deal. Was once probably one of the best Dodgers on the team, and then all of a sudden just leaving there. Brandon Dury, though, signing with Anaheim as well. Another sneaky sign up for the Angels. Noah Syndergaard is coming to LA again, but not for the Angels. Going to be playing for the Dodgers this time, leaving the Phillies. I think he did want to return to the Angels, and I'm kind of surprised the Angels didn't give him another shot. um, especially since the Dodgers were able to sign him for a 1 year, $13 million deal. I think that would have been a steal for the Angels again to sign him. Angels need to go over the salary cap for sure if they want to compete. They've handicapped themselves to where they don't really have a choice. Now here's a very underrated signing that I think Minnesota is gonna absolutely capitalize on. Joey Gallo leaving the Dodgers, going to Minnesota on a 1 year, $11 million deal. Now with the new MLB rules, which we'll get into a little bit later, there's no more shift. Joey Gallo is obviously a major pull hitter. I think we could see a huge spike in Joey Gallo's on-base percentage and his average here with that extra holes now on the right side of the field for him to hit through. I know that really took a lot of hits away from him. I think that could be definitely one of the more underrated signings of the offseason there, and I think that could be a big boost to Minnesota's offense, especially if they're losing Carlos Correa. And then we got Corey Kluber also going to Boston. Craig Kimbrell over to the Phillies. So lots of craziness, a lot of signings, a lot of action so far, a lot of things still on the back burner and things that could potentially come. I think some of the major news we're going to see next, though, I think it's going to be some trades. Most of the big free agents are off the board. So look to see a lot of interesting potential trades coming between now and opening day. We have potentially, I think it's about 40 days or so till spring training, which I'm excited for. Definitely will see me going to spring training at least for one game again this season. And we'll live stream the game there, one of the Angel spring training games. That is our plan to attend one of those. So next up on the list, though, we got Trevor Bauer. Probably the third hottest topic, or maybe even be the hottest topic now, besides Carlos Correa. We got Trevor Bauer being released from the Dodgers, reinstated early from his suspension. Arbitration came back saying, he served enough time. We reduced his sentence, and now the Dodgers officially releasing him. There was toss-up between whether the Dodgers were going to be keeping him, whether the clubhouse wanted him, didn't want him. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Where do you think he signs? There are potential suitors. The Twins, the Astros have been talked to potential landing places. The San Diego Padres. 3 teams there that have been talked about. It was Trevor Plouffe that said those are the teams he thinks that he definitely is likely to sign with. Teams that could take on that controversy and not have to worry about it. There's been talks in the Angel community. Do the Angels take a chance on him? The Angels definitely need another right-handed pitcher. Is he worth it? Do you weigh the pros and the cons? Is someone like that worth taking on for a team like the Angels, where they're already in a bunch of controversy? They have that now minor league Dominican stuff controversy that they're in the middle of. They're just getting over the Tyler Skaggs incidents, and those people finally just gone to jail. And do you think it's worth it? Now, this is where I'm torn. So Trevor Bauer, before this incident, already came with baggage. Just his personality on the mound, the things that happened during the Dodgers season, stirring up with the other clouds, doing the whole eye, thing. And is he a good clubhouse guy? We got mixed reviews on that. Some saying he's a cancer in the clubhouse. Some say he's a great teammate. I just don't know. I think the Angels are desperate enough right now to win that if they could sign him on a reasonable 1-year deal, because no one else wants him, and we're talking like single digits, maybe $8 million for 1 year, somewhere around there. I don't think I'd go into double digits. I don't think I'd go above 10 million for a 1-year deal for him, just because of all the baggage. This is a year here he really's got to bet on himself. He's really got to show what he can bring. He's got to be an excellent clubhouse guy. He's got to not bring that same demeanor that he's been bringing if he wants anything further in his MLB career. I think someone definitely signs him. The question is who's willing to take the risk. Maybe it's even the Mets if the Carlos Correa deal falls through. You know what I mean? The Mets are just signing people. They could use more pitching depth. So it's really a toss-up. I don't know where he's going to end up. I don't think it's going to be the Angels. It very well could be the Twins. It very well could be the Astros. Astros are already used to controversy. I don't think it's going to hurt their reputation too much. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out, and we'll be watching it closely, see which team may or may not sign him. Will he maybe won't get signed at all? Who knows? Time will tell. But let's get into the 3 big MLB rule changes that are going to happen this year. So we got 3 big changes. How much will these affect the games, the seasons? How will it affect just the overall presence of MLB? We have the pitch timer. We have the defensive shift being banned. And then we have bigger bases. So let's get into what all these can tell and what we should be expecting here. So for the pitch timer is going to be, there'll be a 30-second timer between batters. Between pitches, there'll be a 15-second timer with the bases empty, a 20-second timer with runners on base. At last check, the pitch timer seems to reduce about 26 minutes of game time in the minor leagues where this was tested this past year. The rule limit also includes limiting throws to first base, and this has also increased stolen base attempts, increased from 2.23 in 2019 at a 68% success rate to 2.83 in 22 at a 77% success rate. So definitely helping pitchers, which I could see how this would do it. So the pitcher must begin his motion to deliver the pitch before the expiration of the pitch timer. Pitchers who violate the time are charged with an automatic ball. Batters who violate the time are charged with an automatic strike. Batters must be in the box alert to the pitcher by 8-second mark or else charged an automatic strike. With runners on base, the timer resets if the pitcher attempts a pickoff or steps off the rubber. However, the pitcher is limited to 2 disengagements, which includes pickoff attempts or just stepping off per plate appearance. However, the limit is reset if the runner or runners advance during the plate appearance. If a third pickoff attempt is not successful, the runner will be rewarded the next base. Mound visits, injury timeouts, and offensive team timeouts do not count as disengagement. If a team uses up all 5 of its allotted mound visits prior to the 9th inning, the team will receive an additional mound visit in the 9th inning. This effectively serves an additional disengagement. Umpires may provide time if warranted by special circumstances. So, example, if a catcher were to be thrown out the bases on the previous inning to end the inning and need additional time to put on his catching gear, the umpire would allow it. So my take on this, I don't like it. I don't like the pitch timer. I've never liked anyone putting a time limit on baseball. I don't understand why everyone in life is always in such a rush. You're at a ballpark, you're paying for a game, you love the game. The game doesn't really need to be changed. Why? I don't understand why there needs to be a limit. You're at a ballpark, you're in the atmosphere, enjoy being there. Why is it a rush? Why are you rushing to get done? Well, what you paid good money for, to go home. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think we need it, and especially if it's going to be changing the outcome of the games by adding balls and strikes. And when you limit the pickoff attempts, if you do 2 pickoff attempts, the runner already automatically knows that you can't pick over again. So that makes stealing bases a lot easier. That changes the outcome and the strategy of stealing bases. Yeah, that's going to create more stolen bases, but at the same time, it's just, I don't know. I'm not a fan of the pitch timer. You guys can let me know in the comments down below where you guys feel with this pitch timer. I think I like it as a guideline more than an absolute rule, but we'll see how really that affects, if it affects many outcomes this season of games, or how many times a player actually gets charged a ball or a strike. We'll see if it actually affects anything. And see if it actually comes into play. Next, we got the defensive shift limits. So a defense team must have a minimum of 4 players on the infield with at least 2 fielders completely on either side of second base. Restrictions are intended to increase the batting average on balls in play to allow fielders to better showcase their athleticism and to restore more traditional outcomes on batted balls. As with this writing, the league-wide batting average on balls in play of 291 and 22 is 6 points lower than the 2012 and 10 points lower than 2006. So the 4 fielders must be within the outer boundary of the infield when the pitcher is on the rubber. Infielders may not switch sides. In other words, a team cannot reposition its best defender on the side of the infield the batter is more likely to hit the ball. If the infielders are not aligned properly at the time of the pitch, the offense can choose an automatic ball or the result of the play. This rule does not preclude a team from positioning an outfielder in the infield or in the shallow outfield grass in certain situations, but it does prohibit 4 outfielder alignments. So I am in favor of the shift. I've never liked the shift. So it does take away just from the overall what baseball was designed to be, and it does take away offense. It does make it, and I think MLB definitely needs more offense, but not by putting a bunch of rules on it. However, I've never liked the shift, and I am completely in favor of this. And I think there's nothing wrong with this. I mean, I know this past year I saw teams put 4 outfielders in the outfield against Mike Trout, which I think was just ridiculous. But at the same time, I understand the argument on the other side about the shift that these major league hitters should be able to hit through the gap on the other side if they're really that professional of a hitter, which I get it. But at the same time, hitting a pitch where you want it to go is very, very hard, especially at the professional level. It's hard enough to do it even at a high school level, to just aim and hit a ball where you want to go based on what the pitcher's throwing, how hard he's throwing, the movement on the ball. You know, you're lucky enough sometimes just to make solid contact, let alone controlling exactly where it goes. However, there should have been more bunts dropped down, more people you get on base, the more you can score runs. It's all about getting on base. So I can see both sides of it, but I am ultimately in favor of banning the shift. The next and last biggest rule change here is bigger bases. Bases which traditionally have been 15 inches square will instead be 18 inches square. Home plate is unchanged. Though this can have modest impact to stolen base success rate, the primary goal is to give players more room to operate and to avoid collisions. So this is especially important at first base, where fielders have an extra 3-inch advantage to stay out of harm's way. This will create a 4.5-inch reduction in the distance between first and second base and between second and third base, which encourages more stolen base attempts. So I'm kind of on the fence with the bigger bases. I think if it's primarily just for safety issues, I think I'm all right with that. If it avoids and helps collisions at first base, you know, you look at the numbers and you say, okay, 4.5 inches. I mean, what's 4.5 inches, right? How many plays have we seen have come down to inches in being tagged, safe, or out? So I think it's definitely going to increase safe calls. It's definitely going to increase stolen base attempts and the success rates of these stolen base attempts. I mean, it's a game of inches. It really is. 4.5 inches doesn't seem like a lot, but if you go back and look at a lot of replays from this past season, it would have affected a lot of outcome on who would have been safe or would have been out. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this is. I'm all right with the bigger bases. We'll see how it plays out. I mean, they could always go back to normal size bases if it really affects MLB in a negative way. I don't really foresee that happening, but you never know. So moving on now to our Halos. We got lots of news for the Halos here. Halos coming in. So for the Halos, obviously one of the bigger stories is, will the Halos be able to keep Shohei Ohtani? Every news media agency outlet out there is already rumoring and talking about just how he's going to leave the Angels next year, like it's a for sure done deal. That he's going to sign with the Dodgers, he's going to sign with the Yankees, he's going to sign here, he's going to sign there. Now, when it all comes down to it, Shohei Ohtani, if he has another year like he had last year, or even better, he obviously has the power. He can sign at that point with any MLB team he wants. It really comes down to Ohtani's choice, right? Every team is going to want him. Obviously, not every team is going to be able to afford him. But again, he sets his price of what he wants. Someone's going to pay it. You know, whether it's the Mets and their outrageous spending, the Yankees and their spending, the Astros, the Dodgers and their spending. I think there's still a solid chance he stays with the Angels. Now, winning obviously is very important to Shohei and should be very important to every great MLB player. Winning should be the number one priority. However, I don't think he's one to just go and willy-nilly sign anywhere to chase a championship. I think he, just like Mike Trout, cares more of his reputation, more of his I can't think of the word of his more of his story and his career, what it's going to say about him. So I think that's what gives the Angels the advantage. I think he would prefer to live his whole career with a team, especially if he's happy being with the team. But the Angels got to win. Now, not necessarily to fault the Angels. The Angels have made a lot of moves that should have put them in position and contention for the World Series each year. But they've been plagued by injuries. And then they've been plagued by bad signings to where they were good signings at the time. Yeah, they overpaid. But then injuries have just decimated those signings. Albert Pujols, we signed him in the middle of his prime. Huge deal. Turned out, obviously wasn't as good of a player for us as he was for St. Louis. Dealt with a lot of injuries that you can't exactly foresee happening. We had, Josh Hamilton, same thing. Injuries and other personal stuff in his career affecting him. They got Anthony Rendon, absolutely one of the best third basemen in baseball when he's healthy, but he can't stay on the field. The best ability is availability, as Rob would always say. And it's absolutely true. If you're not available, then it doesn't matter how good you are because you're not contributing, you can't play. And so the Angels have done a lot to try and compete. They've spent money, maybe not the wisest way they spent money, but they have tried. You can't say they're not trying. I think that's why part of it is the chance they have to sign Ohtani, because the Angels are trying. They are trying to sign people. They are trying to win. They have not given up like the A's, where they just had a fire sale and got rid of all their players. So they are 100% trying to win. And I think if the Angels can at least make the playoffs, either get to the last game of the series in the first round, even if they lose, or get past the first round, I think that chance to sign Ohtani goes from maybe 50-50 right now to 90%. If they can show they can put that team together, stay healthy, get the right coaching staff around him, get the right owner for the Angels are selling. Artie Moreno is selling the team. Get that right owner in there. There's a lot of things that have to go the Angels' way, I understand, to get it, but I know they're going to do everything they can. I don't think they will trade Ohtani. The only way I can see them trading Ohtani is if Ohtani straight up tells them, I will not re-sign with you next year. If you want to trade me, you can. Because the Angels at trade deadline are one of the worst teams in the league. That's the only scenario I can ever see them trading Ohtani, because it's pretty much career suicide to get rid of the greatest generational player of our time via a trade, willingly give him up without doing everything you can to sign him. It's almost, I think, almost better for the team's just hopes to let him walk than to try and just give up and let him go to another team for. I don't even know what a team would give up. Like, it would be the most insane trade package I think ever done to give up for Ohtani. But at that point, too, you're only getting a player guaranteed for half the year, unless Ohtani agrees to sign or extension with that team. I don't even think it would maybe even not even make sense trading him at that point. So, going to be interesting to see what happens with that. But speaking of Angels' potential sell of the team, I know Rob Manfred wants the sale done by the new year, by the start of the season. I haven't heard a lot of details on potential suitors. There's been rumors of a few, so who knows if they're actually going to get a deal done by then. But I know the owner of the LA Times, Dr. Patrick Soon Seong, I hope I'm saying his name correctly. I know he's considering on bidding for the Angels. He's a billionaire owner of the LA Times newspaper. I think he's got a net worth of like $6 billion, 6.9 according to Forbes. Angels are expected to sell for at least $2.5 billion, which would be a record for a major league team. It'd be the high. It's crazy to even think the Angels are going to be the highest sold team ever in MLB. So maybe someone like him would be good, but again, he's a newspaper owner. I don't know how much he would know about owning a team, but I think the Angels definitely need some big billionaire pockets if they want to compete with just the position they put themselves in. They're going to have, I really believe they're going to have to go into that luxury tax threshold to really make a splash and a chance just because of those contracts they have. They're going to have to do something like what the Mets are doing or the Yankees and just go for broke and get us back in it. The newest rumored potential buyer now is actually Joe Lacombe, the owner of the Golden State Warriors. He's also thinking of potentially bidding on the team as well. He wants to get in the baseball market. I think he said that he preferred to be a team locally to him in the Bay Area, and how that could be a challenge owning a team not in the Bay Area. However, none of those teams are available. So maybe or maybe not. He's definitely not worth as much money as the LA Times guy. Don't know if either one of these guys would really be good as an owner. I don't know exactly what kind of owner the Angels need other than a guy with deep pockets for sure. We definitely can't have no small market owner coming for the Angels. There's got to be someone that's willing to open that checkbook and really get the Angels back on top. So yeah. Let's go over some of the power rankings real quick, and then we're going to go our... Actually, you know what? Let's go over... Where we at here? Go over the Angels' pickups here that they've had so far. So obviously the most noticed ones, we've added Tyler Anderson, Carlos Estevez. We've added some good trades. We got Gio Urshela. We got Hunter Renfroe, a good pickup. 2 good pickups there for depth. Added another bullpen there, Carlos Estevez, I think I said. Brandon Dury is another good pickup for the Angels. Angels have added a lot of depth to their lineup, a lot of depth to the infield, just in case of injuries like Rendon. But I think the Angels actually have one of the sneakier, better lineups in all of baseball right now, if the team is 100% healthy. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens to the AL West. They got 3 other solid teams now to compete with. It's not going to be an easy feat. Angels are going to have one of the best seasons they've ever had if they plan on contending for the division title this year. Hoping for at least a wild card berth. They just, no matter what, they got to get any way they can into the playoffs. But the early season power rankings right now have the Astros at number 1, the Mets at number 2, the Braves number 3, Padres coming up there as number 4, ahead of the Dodgers right now. Boasted by that signing of Xander Bogaerts. The Yankees coming at number 5. And then the Phillies, Dodgers, Mariners, Blue Jays, and Rays all rounding out the top 10. So, and the Angels, of course, they're all the way down at number 17. But it's a step up from where they were. I think they had them at like number 20 in November before all the signings. So the Angels have worked their way up. Still in the bottom half of the power rankings, though. And hopefully that will change. We don't want to count our chickens too much before they hatch, though. We saw what happened last year. Angels came in best team in baseball for the first month and a half and then turned into the absolute worst team for the remainder of the season. Hopefully that doesn't happen this year. They can start off to another hot start and continue it all throughout the year. Phil Nevin, of course, still being the manager for the Angels as well. We'll see how that all turns out. I really think Angels need a whole new staff altogether. They need new pitching, batting, base running, training staff, and most importantly, I think, is the training staff. They really need a new training staff. But that's, yeah. So that's going to pretty much wrap it up for all the craziness going on in MLB so far this offseason. We will be back with another episode next Sunday to talk about everything else going on in sports, any updates in MLB, talk about any NFL playoffs and what's expected there. Just a quick shout out to the NFL player there that was hurt over the weekend. Hold on 1 second. So yeah, huge shout out to Damar Hamlin and his speedy recovery. Scary incident of him collapsing on the field. But quick work by the staff there in providing CPR was crucial in saving his life, basically. So thoughts go out to that on the NFL. We'll touch more on the NFL next week and playoffs and everything else to come in sports. So hopefully you guys enjoyed our first episode back. Let me know comments, questions. Join the Discord as well. If you guys are not on the Discord, hit that like button and that subscribe button. And we will be back next week with more sports action. Till then, I'm your host, Maverick. I'll see you on the next one.
And you're listening to The Sportsman, Mike and Rob.